Hello, welcome to GRCon2020. My name's Dan Roberts, and I'll spend the next 30 minutes or so talking about CNF technologies. We'll go through a corporate overview, a little bit about the company and the history of the company. I'll spend some time talking about OpenCpi and our support to that community and our operational customers. Talk about representative research areas here at CNF. Talk about the CTO's perspective and really corporate investment and the direction of the company that we're taking, and then round out with job opportunities here at the company. So CNF Technologies is one of the fastest growing cyber companies in the country right now. After a long and successful career within the Department of the Air Force as a civilian, our founder, Fred Ramirez, and his wife, Roxanne, founded CNF in 2005 with our headquarters here in San Antonio. We were founded as an economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business, and now we've got a little over 20,000 square feet of facility space here in San Antonio with secure communications facilities and processing facilities. We have laboratories, we have conference facilities. We've got folks and physical facilities in Texas, Maryland, Colorado, and in Colorado. We're headquartered here in San Antonio near one of our primary customers, the 16th Air Force, who conduct cyber operations and intelligence surveillance and reconnaissance for the Air Force. We're co-located with NSA Texas and a number of acquisition organizations that design and acquire the operational systems in use by the Air Force and Cyber Command at large. We have a top secret facility clearance. And as you can see by the revenue chart in the lower right-hand corner, we've had a significant uptick in growth, both in personnel and in revenue, really since 2018. That's really comes down to the commitment to our staff and diversifying our portfolio, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. We truly believe that our people are our strength. Most of the folks that work at CNF have spent their careers in cyber, ISR, electronic warfare, and a number of us in space. Most of the employees have clearances up to the TSSCI level, and a good majority of us have certifications that are required by our customers. We're rapidly becoming the employer choice for systems engineering, architectures, reverse engineering, and exploitation subject matter experts. We've got a growing cadre of staff focused on FPGA development, software-defined radio development, digital signal processing, and exploitation of communication signals. We have a historical and still growing team of defensive cyber operation analysts and operators and forensics experts, and a growing team of operational offensive cyber operations tool developers, test and evaluation and functional developers, as well as tactics, techniques, and procedure developers. We also have a very large presence in the certification and accreditation of systems in both the risk management framework and the evolving accreditation approaches by the government. Here in San Antonio, we have about 18,000 square feet of laboratory and development space and collaboration facilities, broken up into several different physical facilities. We have a SCIF. We are actively working on all the communications for that facility. We have a collaboration and training and conference facilities that we host some of our customers in to support collaborative TTP development, training, and operational systems, and the tools that we develop. We have a number of developmental laboratories and the infrastructure to support that, including RF shielded enclosures, anechoic chambers that are really required for spectrum warfare, converged EW, cyber capability development, as well as ISR development and other research and development projects. We have a collaboration center, and we host hackathons where we bring together industry, academia, and government, and participants from all those communities to really bring them together in a single location where we can actively work on producing something demonstrable in a very collaborative way to assess and solve those critical shortfalls in active developmental contracts. We also provide a central node in a very widely distributed multi-level DevSecOps infrastructure as a service between all of our facilities that uses a standardized approach to toolchain development, as well as integration testing, so CICD, and then the operational transition to our warfighters that we'll talk about here in a little bit. Some of our customer base, we support the major commands, service laboratories, and acquisition centers, as well as the acquisition community. And we do that with core competencies in open system frameworks, which we'll talk a little bit about here in a minute, OpenCpi, which is specifically designed for embedded systems, software-defined radio and FPGA development, EW reprogramming, so that's the EW systems deployed on the US systems, where we can rapidly analyze new threats and then facilitate the production of countermeasures to those platforms to counter those threats. We have a growing data analytics and machine learning core competency and application development and algorithm development for that. And then we do truly support full spectrum EW and cyber operations, where we have staff in innovating in new capability development, designing and developing those capabilities. And then we support a number of operational users with the employment of those capabilities. We are committed to our team. That starts at the top and works its way down through the organization. We provide 100% committed carte blanche authority to apply company resources to achieve our customers' missions and the success of those missions. That comes with servant leadership. We support our employees with a passionate leadership approach, and which really facilitates their innovation and the innovative approach to problem solving. We bring large business maturity with a small business agility. So we sit in this in the middle of a very small business. We're about 160 folks or so, and we'll be just shy of $50 million a year, which necessitates a large business maturity, but we still have that small business agility that a lot of our customers really appreciate. We hire the right people at the right time, and we dedicate to our employees that we're not just hiring people for a job, we're hiring people for the company and the long-term presence of the company, and hope that they will stick with us. We average over a 90% retention rate in the company, which is really industry leading, and that's that really shows the dedication to our staff and our customers. We're ISO 9001 certified, and that brings process maturity to all of our technical efforts. It really speaks to our ability to manage not only our organically executed work, but also the massive amounts of subcontractors that we manage. So I think that we have we're managing anywhere from 40 to 50 subcontractors right now on a number of different programs across the company. We invest in future leaders. So we have been an active participant in the Cyber Patriot program. We provide scholarship programs to UTSA, the University of Texas, San Antonio, for computer science and undergraduates. We provide internship programs for local universities, and where we try to bring in high quality talent, expose them to operational needs and mission, show them our tools and our process that we use it within CNF, and then make a commitment to them to bring them on as full-time employees after graduation. We partner actively with the University of Texas San Antonio National Security Collaboration Center, NSCC, and then we also partner with the Griffiths Institute in coordination with the Air Force Research Laboratory, mentoring future officers as they transition out of school and into the Department of the Air Force. In addition to professional commitments, we also have a commitment to our community, and we're actively involved in the community. And that, whether that be through monetary donation or the collection of food and coats for our community, but also in the dedication of our time and contributing back to the community through volunteer time at organizations like Haven for Hope, which help the homeless in San Antonio. Now let's spend a little time talking about OpenCpi and our support to that community and the framework. OpenCpi is an open architecture for heterogeneous systems. And when I mean open architecture, I mean, one, it's free and open source, but also it provides a development and runtime environment to build applications from a module or component-based development approach, so that those modules or components can be reused across by other application developers, but also the modules and the resultant applications can be used across GPPs, FPGAs, and GPUs. So true heterogeneous embedded development. We're very, very close to the hardware, which differentiates us between some other application frameworks that focus on GPP or building those modules or applications and software. We really target the hardware. So it's a program to maintain and extend that framework in both the open source, which is a vast majority of the code base is free and open source, but also to protect our vendors and other contributors in a closed source repository to protect any proprietary information or export controlled information that might exist. And then obviously, as we are a defense contractor, to support those applications that might have classified aspects to them. We implement best practices for open source and standardized tool chaining, which encourages open source engagement and adoption and provides that portability for proprietary and export controlled applications and into classified environments. Really what OpenCpi does is it significantly decreases the implementation time for new hardware. So, the tagline is design once and deploy everywhere. And what that means is design an application from a component-based approach, and through the CICD pipeline, ensure that that application ports across a number of different supported hardware platforms, which is really different than a lot of other frameworks that are out there. Our vision is to work across all communities, encourage widespread adoption and engagement without vendor lock-in. So that really gets to the component-based approach, development approach that we have within OpenCpi, decomposing applications to the lowest functional component level so that those components can be reused by other application developers in a very modular way. What that does is allows us to extract the proprietary pieces that are natural in a lot of application development efforts, extract those out, protect them appropriately, and then when bundled, you can have a proprietary application used by a specific customer, but 95% of all the other software development results in components that can be reused within the community for other applications. And that's really, it works across a ubiquitous, set of platforms. And then we also want to extend the framework support for platforms and used by our stakeholders and those that really are of interest by the open source community. So we want to remove the stumbling blocks to adoption, and that comes from hardware support. So we actively work with our customers, we actively work with radio vendors so that we can provide support for their platforms so that any operational user or any third-party developer can build applications that can run on those. And that really is in support of communities, the community in a lot of different ways. So that's hardware developers and vendors, such as Motorola that build radios for operational employment, application developers like Blackhorse and Centauri, who build applications for use by the government. That's users both in academia, within the government, and just hobbyists. So it is an open source community effort. We want to make everything available to the entire community so that we can maximize the reuse of everyone's hard work and the development of those constituent components. We have a very mature CICD pipeline as well. That includes not only internal to our team and third-party vendors, but also community collaboration. Everything's hosted in both public and private GitLab repositories in the cloud. There's a natural, as I spoke to earlier, need for private repositories to protect any corporate proprietary information or export controlled information, but vast majority, upwards of 90% of everything that's developed is contained within the public repo. I think the most important element of this slide is that we have dedicated to fixed release cadence based on requirements derived from our customers, but also derived from the open source community, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner there. That includes public releases, patching of those releases as bugs are found, providing functionality enhancements to the releases, and then pushing a major release at a set frequency over time. Another one of the huge values of OpenCpi and our CICD pipeline is the hardware development laboratory. So within OpenCpi, because it is a heterogeneous development framework, we support a number of different platforms, as you can see highlighted in green, anywhere from transceivers all the way to board support packages, or as we call them in OpenCpi, OSPs, OpenCpi support packages. And all the variants in between. So from Intel, Altera chipsets to Xilinx, and a number of different development and build environments. So most of our team uses CentOS, but we also support macOS and Ubuntu for operational development of operational capabilities. We have a number of platforms under development, and then we have a roadmap of prioritized things that we're actively working on. And that part of the prioritization of those hardware platforms is derived from open source and community input. So we want to work on what's most important to you. And the coolest thing about this is that we provide access to these hardware platforms via our CICD hardware development laboratory. So we're hosting 2 workshops during GRCon this year. One focused on application development in the CICD framework, and then also on bringing up new hardware within OpenCpi, focused on ADI's Pluto hardware. So we'll basically use a use case around how we built OpenCpi support for Pluto. Right now, the hardware development laboratory is focused on just connections to Pluto devices. But after GRCon, very rapidly, we'll modify that environment to provide access to all the hardware that we have and any hardware that is provided to us, so that any application developer can ensure that their applications port across a number of different platforms. We'll go into some representative research areas at CNF next. The first program that I wanted to highlight is called Cross-Domain Automated Technologies, or CDAT. That's a multifaceted program that's focused on a number of different tasks. One of the first tasks that we looked at was taking applications that were built and frameworks that were built for large distributed cloud-based enterprise environments, like a DCGS, if some of you might be familiar with that. And looking at the applications and the functionality contained within those frameworks, and trying to reduce swap to get them onto tactical edge devices. So those could be handhelds, those could be embedded platforms. And one of the first applications that we looked at, and the first frameworks that we looked at, focused on capturing and dissemination of full motion video and all the analytics associated with that to get them to tactical edge devices. That rapidly moved from that task into a very DSP-centric research task, where we're looking at techniques and frameworks to rapidly analyze and modify fielded waveforms. So where we're at in the phase of the program right now, almost all of our work is on GNU radio waveforms, where we're taking publicly released waveforms like FM and RDS waveforms and building a framework around those to do a real-time analysis of the waveform, classify and categorize those transmitted waveforms, but anything else that we've sensed within the environment, and then being able to look at the data contained within the waveform without doing full demod on the signal itself. Another program represents a good body of work that we have at CNF is called Radix, or the Rapid Attack Detection, Isolation, and Characterization System. This was a program originally started by DARPA a number of years ago, where we looked at, DARPA looked at how to reconstitute critical infrastructure while in the middle of an active cyber attack. So this is a cyber physical attack designed to shut down the power grid. How do you isolate the attack? How do you isolate compromised components of the infrastructure? And how do you reconstitute the infrastructure during an attack? CNF is contributing to the program by building a very large test facility in Colorado that provides the critical infrastructure community the ability to test new defensive capabilities. I think almost one of the most important aspects of the program is really to provide risk reduction training for critical infrastructure engineers and first responders that are having to respond during some global crisis or localized crisis due to a cyber physical attack. The system that we're building will also provide continued analysis of the impacts from cyber physical capabilities that are used by those within the United States and our enemies abroad. Another representative program at CNF is called Harspec, or the Resilient Space Enterprise for Cyber. That's a program sponsored by SMC, the Space and Missile Systems Center, which is now a part of U.S. Space Force, to look at building and evolving advanced persistent cyber defenses against adversary threats within the space enterprise. And the space enterprise is broken up between ground segments, space segments, and the space to ground aspect of it as well. It's modeled around the NIST framework and 4 product lines for detection, identification, response, and protection capabilities in support of the mission defense teams and the cyber protection teams that our nation uses to protect the critical space enterprise. Our initial effort is focused on the Common Ground Architecture, or the Enterprise Ground Services, EGS, but we support all product lines in all segments of the enterprise through support to the program offices, the space and cyber operators, as well as the commanders that own those capabilities and those infrastructures. We provide system and software engineers, and we're working collaboratively across a number of different development teams, providing our standardized CICD pipeline, as well as a platform for test and integration, and our development teams as well. Another program is Technology Implementation Analysis and Tactics, Techniques, and Procedures Development. We just shortened that down to TTP, the program where we support AFRL, the Air Force Research Laboratory, working with DARPA, academia, industry, and other government S&T entities to find military utility in research and development projects. So we're basically matchmakers in the S&T world, where we look at 6162 or fundamental research projects, find operational use cases that exist within the operational community, and then provide that transition path for or out of the development, the research and development community, and those parties. So, and oftentimes that's the developer themselves and the government sponsor, into the acquisition community and then into an operator's hands. So we work actively with the national S&T community. We work with the R&D community. We identify those candidates for transition, and then we assess the relevance and the risk, as well as a path forward for the operational transition of those technologies. We'll spend a few more minutes here in the next couple slides talking about investment and growth at CNF. So as I mentioned, we were established in 2005 really as a company focused on cyber defense and cyber defense services. That will always remain as a core part of the business. But in 2015, there was a concerted effort to diversify our portfolio, not only from a technology perspective, but also from a customer perspective, and a contractual perspective. And that really resulted in that almost exponential growth curve that we experienced in 2019, where we've grown 600% over the last 3 years. That's leveled off in 2019, or really 2020, to a sustainable 10% growth rate. But that growth is directly attributable to the expansion of our core competencies out of defensive cyber services into RF research, software-defined radio research, digital signal processing, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and other areas that are in high demand by our core set of customers and those customers that we've identified for growth. That's really necessitated an adaptation of our culture and our investment strategy. And that's truly changed how we hire folks, how we staff contracts and overhead positions, changed the way we buy things, changed our physical IT infrastructure, and almost all of our IT core enterprise functions have adapted over the last couple of years to that growth, and really to mature the company to be a credible competitor in the S&T and R&D space. Core investments. We have a fairly robust internal research and development program. We're focused on AI and ML. A lot of test automation to an automated test process, so that we can assess developed capabilities and their impact not only in the operational environment, but the threat environment, but also the complete operational environment. So everywhere from where a capability is instantiated and operated from, through gray space to the threat environment itself. And that necessitates a lot of data analysis and decision support, capability development and investment. We're creating applications that bolster our core competencies. As I mentioned before, that growth in software-defined radio development, DSP development, building the infrastructure, the tools, the process, and hiring the staff to be able to do that kind of research. And then really providing the opportunity to grow, our staff to grow in support of those initiatives. We actively communicate and collaborate, with the research community and academia. We do cost sharing for R&D activities with professors and students. Through our internship program and the collaboration efforts, we provide a unique opportunity for students to see real-world problems, which tailors their research in school that we then are able to leverage in our contracts and execution, and really shape the way they're being taught, what they're being taught, and so that we can have highly qualified folks joining our team after graduation. And then we actively participate in conferences like this and others around the community, which provides a great segue into opportunities to work with us. We have a number of positions open. I think we have, last I checked, there were upwards of 20 open, current vacancies and open positions nationwide. Those are most likely co-located with one of the facilities or the points of presence that we have in Texas, Colorado, Maryland, or in California. However, we want to hire rock stars. So if you are an expert in any one of the fields or the research areas that I mentioned, please feel free to reach out to us. We actively support and want to encourage a virtual work environment for those high performers that can help us grow in the future and really help us meet the needs that are presented by our operational customers. If you're interested, please visit our career page at cnftech.com/careers, or reach out to Tiffany, our recruiter, at the information contained on the slide. So in conclusion, I wanted to just summarize to let you know that we're a rapidly growing small business. We're agile, but we have large business maturity to tackle big programs and big, hard problems, as expressed by our customers. A lot of our work is in the RF domain right now, as I've mentioned several times. We provide an unbiased support to not only our customers, but the open source community as well. And what that means is we don't build radios. We don't build proprietary hardware or software. We fit within that space between vendors and the needs of the user community to provide the open source framework, to provide the unbiased support, and both in development and test and in operations to our to all third parties, right? So the community as well as our customers. And we're active supporters of the GNU Radio community as well through OpenCpi and other initiatives. We have a multidisciplinary team of engineers that provide the technical depth and the breadth required to sustain support of OpenCpi. So this isn't a couple folks in their garage that are doing this pro bono on their free time as volunteers. This is a well-funded team that is here to support OpenCpi for the long haul and really solicit requirements from and support the open source community through the commitment to regular community public releases. If you have any questions about the presentation today or the technologies that I mentioned or the programs that I've mentioned, please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach our CEO, Roxanne Ramirez, our COO, Steve Barish, or our CTO, Aaron Grace, at the number below, or you can visit our webpage at cnftech.com. Appreciate your time today, and I look forward to talking to you in the future. Thank you.